Want to fund Trump's border wall? All it takes is getting rid of about 8% of those non-essential federal employees that we keep hearing about. I've got a plan that'll pressure the federal unions, shrink the government, and get Trump his wall. Also, Democrats keep moving farther and farther to the left with every speech they give. We'll go over that plus a lot more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
God bless the United States of America.
All right, so first up, we have the border wall. Trump's State of the Union address is approaching because the government is now reopened. Nancy Pelosi has extended his invitation, but we're no closer to a solution than we were before. And I've got a plan that President Trump should really take into consideration because the Democrats aren't budging. And first, what it really deals with are the economics of employment in general. In the private sector, if people are all of a sudden wearing more blue jeans, guess what? The blue jean companies start hiring people. If they suddenly move to khakis, guess what? Blue jean people are out of a job. Now people making khakis have more employment. There's more jobs for them because the company's hiring, because they're selling more. That's the way it works. That's the way it works in the private sector. In the public sector, these federal employees, the government stays the same regardless of downturns, upswings. In fact, it either stays the same or grows over the years. And that is a conservative principle that we just do not go for. We want to shrink the power and the scope of government. So let's take a look at what's going on with federal employees because they're so out of touch with what's going on in the private sector. The media and those on the left seem to think that federal employees are somehow more sacred than those in the private sector. I'm from Houston. So when oil prices dropped, you saw people losing their jobs. You saw people declaring bankruptcy. You saw companies shutting their doors, going out of business. I had a good friend of mine who's involved in the oil sector calling me up asking if I needed a new car because he's selling cars now. That's how it works in the real world. And yet all of a sudden, these federal employees are untouchable. We need to be able to shrink the government. And that brings us to Trump's border wall. And I want to get to that by going over some of these stats that show the difference between the private sector and federal employees. Just take a look at this chart right here. So this is from Downsizing the Federal Government, which is a project of the Cato Institute. This is the rise from 2000 until this current year. Federal government employee, the average they make is $90,794 compared to a private sector employee making $61,311. And that's just wages. That chart just focuses on wages. If you take in overall compensation like pensions and healthcare, things like that, you see that the gap grows substantially for a federal government employee of $130,429 compared to $72,992 for a private sector employee. So in our previous show, I mentioned that one of the things that President Trump should do is to continue pressuring the Democrats through the federal unions. As the government was shut down, as these people were missing paychecks, the unions were hearing from their employees who weren't getting paid, and the union's natural ally are the Democrats. So Democrats started hearing from the unions. I think this is partly why some of the Democrats started to break ranks. You heard some people come out saying that they're for the border wall, that walls work. We just ended the showdown a little too soon. So what I envision is for Trump to continue the pressure on that, bring these people to the negotiating table. If you recall, the Democrats said, we want to negotiate with President Trump. They didn't negotiate. All they had to do was give him a bill that had the border wall in it, and the government would have never shut down. This is on their hands, despite how it wants to be spun. So they didn't do that. So the government shut down. Trump came back with two compromises on DACA and on TPS. They said, listen, we're not even going to negotiate till the government reopens. So he reopened the government, and they're not renegotiating. They're not negotiating at all. So take a look at this. Take a look at what we could do with the 800,000 non-essential employees that we kept talking about. Based on that average wage of the $90,794, here's how much we could save. Okay, if you take a look at eliminating the entire 800,000 non-essential federal employees. We'll call them the non-essentials. That's $72,635,200,000 that could be saved just from their salaries, okay? But that would be harsh, that would be extreme. Some of these non-essentials are in kind of a title only. Their jobs may, serve an actual purpose. So let's just look at half of those, okay? 400,000, we'll call them the super non-essentials. That saves the federal government $36,317,600,000, okay? But that's 400,000 people that would be out of a job. The media would go crazy. Not like they care, again, if the energy sector goes down and people are out of jobs, or if coal miners lose their jobs, or if the economy up and down, or technologies come in and people are out of work. There's never an uproar about that, but 400,000 is probably still too high. So let's look at just 10%. Let's look at 80,000. We'll call them the super duper, or 400,000 saved you that much. 80,000, the super duper non-essentials, saves you $7,263,520,000. Okay, so we're getting kind of close. We're getting kind of close to what Trump wanted with $5.7 billion. So what does it take? What does it take to get there, to that number? All right, well, let's take a look. It is 62,780 employees, or 7.847% non-essential federal employees. Now, we'll call them the I didn't know you even worked here non-essentials. And you eliminate that group, 7.847%, and that gets you $5.7 billion, which funds Trump's wall. Now, because he eliminates those employees doesn't mean the Democrats are going to appropriate those funds. But what it shows is there's incredible leverage through the presidency to pressure unions to say, look, one of the facets of conservatism is to shrink government. And Trump's already done some things that are really good. He came in, he implemented a hiring freeze in certain parts of the federal labor force. He also gave the departments more leeway to fire underperforming employees, okay? So this gives him another tactic. Rather than saying, I'm going to militarize the border, what he should do, in either publicly or behind the scenes with the Democrats and these federal union bosses, is to say, all right, I'm going to ask all employees to initiate reduction in workforce studies, every single department, come back with me on where we can trim, and we're going to start trimming. So you think the federal unions are going to be upset, the workers are going to be upset if they're furloughed, they're going to be even more upset if they don't have a job. And these are not jobs that we owe anybody. These are taxpayer-funded jobs. And if they're not needed, and if we can use those funds elsewhere, I think Trump has a tremendous bargaining chip right there to say, listen, we're going to start trimming government. It's a conservative thing to do. It's part of my core philosophy anyway. I've already implemented some measures, but look, now we're going to be even more focused. We're going to trim this down. We're going to get our wall, and you're either going to come on board or your members are going to be kicking and screaming and pressuring you to do something. So I think Trump does have some leverage. Again, the Democrats still have not negotiated, and we have to get something done. And this gives them a tool to do so. So in the meantime, the Democrats are running farther to the left faster than Usain Bolt. The way they are coming out with proposal after proposal that only caters to the far left. Take a look at this. First of all, we have New York State, which just passed a bill that said basically you could have an abortion up until the day of delivery. It is sick, it is murder, and yet it was celebrated in New York State and celebrated by the media. But that's just one example. Democrats on the House Natural Resources Committee are proposing that they take out "So help you God" from the oath that witnesses take when they testify before their committee. Here's a report from Fox News. It says, the rules proposal places the words "So help you God" in red brackets, indicated they are slated to be cut. Other rules changes relate to expanding the committee's authority over natural gas in Alaska, fossil fuel resources. The full committee is set to vote on the new language this week, and the rules would take effect immediately if adopted. In response to this, Liz Cheney had a great tweet, and I just wanted to put it up for you here. Here's what she had to say. She said, "It's incredible but not surprising that the Democrats would try to remove God from committee proceedings in one of their first acts in the majority. They really have become the party of Karl Marx." And that's absolutely, positively correct. And here's just some examples. Earlier this week, CNN basically hosted a town hall, an infomercial for Kamala Harris, the senator who's announced for president. Here's a clip from what she had to say.
So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
So she's proposing doing away with private health insurance altogether. And she thinks that that's going to eliminate paperwork, that's going to eliminate waits, as if the government is not the most massive, inefficient, corrupt bureaucracy there is. There's a reason that Canada has long waits. It's because there's government control of healthcare, and that's what she wants. Yet she's telling the American people that you're going to get shorter waits, no paperwork, if we get rid of private health insurance. It's absolutely outrageous. Here's something else. Here's another clip from her.
20 6- and 7-year-old babies were massacred in Connecticut. They failed to act. Here's what I think. I think that somebody should have required, and this is going to sound very harsh, I think somebody should have required all those members of Congress to go in a room, in a locked room, no press, no one, nobody else, and look at the autopsy photographs of those babies. And then you vote your conscience.
So this one I put in there because it's so outrageous that she would use an example of 20 children that were, brutally murdered as an example to shock politicians into action. Okay, well, that's tragic. So how much more tragic is it when over 300,000 babies are killed every year by Planned Parenthood? How about if we take all those legislators and put them in a room and see those pictures? Would that be shocking? Would that affect their conscience? Would that do something? Why is it that that's an argument on one side for gun control, but not for protecting innocent human life? Here's Representative Ilhan Omar on a tweet where she's jumping into the right for federal housing. Here's what she had to say. In the richest country in the world, there's no reason we can't guarantee the right to affordable quality housing to everyone in the U.S. And in the 116th Congress, this should be a top priority. Hashtag housing crisis. So these are just some examples of how the left, whether a politician believes it in their core, this far left philosophy, they're running to that audience. These are the proposals that they're espousing in their campaigns and in legislation for this new Congress. And you have to ask yourself why. Well, the reason is because the Democrat base and America in general is going more and more to the left. Here's some quick stats from a Fox News poll. Among Democrats, 40% say a move towards socialism is a good thing, and only 34% say it's a bad thing. Among all voters, 24% say it's bad, 54% say it's a bad thing, 24% say it's a good thing. So in that poll, even among Republicans, there was 9% that said a move to socialism was the right thing to do. And it just shows you what we're up against when the left controls media, controls education, controls entertainment, controls technology now with Google and YouTube and Twitter. You see all of these bias cases, Facebook. This is what we're up against, and it's a big, big battle, and we have to keep pushing. Folks, I thank you for tuning in today. We're out of time. See this button here? Please click that. That's the subscribe, and hit the bell that's next to it so you'll get notifications. Also, if you want to check out previous episodes, check out the playlist for all of the 13-minute News Hour segments, and I hope you enjoy it. Please tell your friends. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute News Hour.